Welcome to our live session. I don't actually even see anybody on here to start, but I'm sure we'll get some people popping on here. But so whether you're watching live or whether you come on later and watch the recorded version, welcome to our live Ask Me Anything session for March. I just barely walked into the door from California about a half hour ago. I left LA at about 10:30 this morning. So you kind of hear it in my voice. I'm kind of beat here. I've been driving all day long. And we just picked up, me and my daughter Liberty went down to Huntington Beach and picked up my Bigfoot decks. So here's one of them right here. This was the one you see behind me here that's already built. This is one that they had sent me before. And so I've had just that one, but I went and picked up all mine from Madrid and Huntington Beach. And so I got my Bigfoot decks. It was really, really fun. A really great weekend. The flow worked out really perfectly. We got a lot of really great footage. So I picked them up on Friday, and then we went down to Carlsbad, stayed the night in Carlsbad, and then Saturday we had a event at Status Skate Shop, where I put together a bunch of completes and we had people come out and ride them. It was just kind of a small affair. We didn't really promote it much, but it was a lot of fun. And one story, this was really cool to me. Not that you care, but it's just a testament to the Bigfoot. This is actually the second time this has happened to me. So on Friday night, we were skating to get my daughter a swimsuit because she forgot her swimsuit. And I was on the Bigfoot and walked past a guy who was just walking on the sidewalk. And he made a comment about the Bigfoot. And so I said, hey, jump on. He spent all of 30 seconds on it, loved it, and then was asking me about it. And so I told him about the event at Status the next day in Carlsbad. And I wasn't thinking anything of it. It was just, quick exchange. Well, he shows up at the skate shop the next day at the event and drops $535 on a complete Bigfoot. And that's the second time that's happened, because that happened to me on my college campus just 2 weeks ago during my pre-sale. It was hilarious. I never talk to anybody when I skate on the campus. I just keep headphones on and I just skate because it's my time. But this guy was wearing an Aquabats t-shirt, and it's been a long time since I've seen anything Aquabats. So I just pulled a headphone out and said something. Turns out the guy, and he stopped me, waved me down. Turns out he's been watching my channel for years. He and his kids have bought several Surfskates, and then he rode the Bigfoot for a minute, if that. And then and then it was just cool, good to meet you. And then he went home and bought a Bigfoot on the pre-sale. So that's the second time that's happened, where somebody tries it just briefly and then goes home and buys it. So it's fun. It's encouraging. But so far, the feedback has been phenomenal. Everybody loves it. Another thing I did was, so Saturday we had the event at the skate shop, and then I left the skate shop at about 1 o'clock, or actually it's probably closer to 2. Drove up to Venice Beach, where I met up with Taylor Airway. If you know that name, if you don't know that name, look him up on Carver's YouTube channel. There's a video called Finding Flow, and that's Taylor Airway. In my opinion, he's one of the best surf skaters in the world. He's an incredible surfer. He's just incredible, really fun to watch. And so I was able to hook up with him Saturday night, and we went up to some hills in Santa Monica and got some really great footage. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can see one little reel that I posted. It'll give you a little sneak peek as to what's coming from Taylor Airway. But I got some really great footage of him on the Bigfoot, and he really, better than anybody I've ever seen, really showcases the full possibilities of it. And he was raving about it. He loves his Bigfoot too. So everybody so far has loved it. And then this morning, we had breakfast with Greg Falk down in Venice Beach, and then just went to his house. He just lives blocks away from the skate park. And I gave Greg Falk a Bigfoot, and we put a Carver CX on it, and Greg Falk loves the Bigfoot. It took him a little while to kind of come around to it. And he didn't like the rail adapter on the rear. He wanted his Carver C2 on the rear. Speaking of which, that was something that was really cool. While we were at the skate shop at Status, Mr. J says, so chances for Sasquatch and Yeti are pretty high then, huh? For Sasquatch, 100%, but not for Yeti. Yeti's a pipe dream. Here, I'm getting derailed, but I'll answer your question real quick. So if you don't know what he's talking about, Sasquatch is my 57-inch board, and Yeti is the 74-inch. I haven't made them yet. This is what I have envisioned. But the Sasquatch I brought home with me. Madrid pressed for me 3 blanks for me to cut out my 57-inch Sasquatch. So I'll start shaping that, and I'll make a video of that. So you're going to see my Sasquatch. The Yeti, 74 inches long. I wanted to go 74 inches long by 13 inches wide, but it's not possible with current manufacturing capabilities, because the jacks that they use, it goes up on one jack, and your mold goes across that, and they can set it up with 2 jacks. But even at that length with 74, even if you have 2 jacks going up, what ends up happening is the board doesn't get evenly pressed on the ends. And so 74 inches is just too wide and or too long. And so it's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. However, what I am going to do is they're going to give me materials at least, and I'm going to press it in my own garage, because my press in my garage is actually wide enough. It's actually 84 inches wide. So I'll press a Yeti or 2 in my garage with a 74 incher, but I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime that the Yeti will come out. But the Sasquatch for sure. But it may not happen. It may be next year before that happens, because we got to first prove the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot's got to pay for it, because these are, in case you don't know, these are, I don't want to bore you with my problems, but I've spent a fortune on developing these. I've spent a small fortune on this, and I've done it because I've loved it. But point being is it has to pay for itself now. So we'll run the Bigfoot and we'll see how it goes. And then I definitely want to do the Sasquatch. Highly doubt it happens this year, but hopefully next spring on the Sasquatch. But so that's my trip. What else about my trip? It was a good trip, and you're going to be seeing a bunch of footage come out of it. Yeah, so that's my California trip, and then I've answered your question, Mr. J. And by the way, I'm super tired from driving all day, so I'm planning on just sticking around. I'll answer people's questions who are on here, but I wasn't planning on sticking around too long to answer. I always have backed up questions that if I wanted to, I could be here all night long answering them. So I'll answer a few here, but I'm going to prioritize people who are just on the chat here. And then I'm going to go settle in from my weekend trip and get some rest. So if you have a question, chat it to me and I'll answer it. While I'm waiting for people to chat questions, I had somebody ask today we launched the video on the custom build of the Hamboards Pinger, which is 70 or 67 inches long compared to the Classic, which is 78 inches long. And somebody asked me, Pinger versus Classic, which do you prefer? And we were in a hurry to make that Pinger video, and I just didn't have time to do kind of a ride report at the end. But here's the bottom line on it. The Pinger is fantastic. Love it to death. But I have a Classic, so the Classic's better. To me, the longer the better. It's just, that Classic is really extraordinary. It's one of my favorite rides. It's the one I ride. It's one of 3. That, the Bigfoot, and my 57-inch Sector 9 Luke Nosewalker are the ones that get the most riding from me. So the Pinger is good, but if you have a Classic, you're going to like the Classic better. But so bottom line is, if all I had was the Pinger and I didn't have the Classic, then the Pinger would be one of my top #1 rides. But since I have the Classic, it's not. So the pinger is just going to get added to the collection, and I'll get it out every once in a while. But given the choice between the classic and the pinger, I'm taking the pinger. Mr. J, oh, that was your question. All right, cool. So we answered your question, and then hoping for the Yeti. Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine, like, the only way it'd be possible is you have to completely revamp manufacturing capabilities, and you're in the, I imagine, at least tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. So yeah, I do not see that happening, but it sure would be cool. And it makes zero sense. In case you're wondering, it makes zero sense whatsoever for me to press these one at a time I could even press them, 3, 4. Honestly, I could probably go, depending on the thickness, I could probably go 5 at a time. But even that, it makes no sense. It takes me so much time to shape them. It's ridiculous. And then the cost of materials, like literally, if I were to try to be profitable in the slightest sense on ones that I hand make, I'd have to sell them for a minimum of $1,000, if not more. Like, it's just crazy. So that's just completely out of the question for me to hand build them and sell them. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see if Madrid ever makes it possible with their manufacturing capabilities, but I don't see it ever happening. And that's exactly why, Hamboards, well, it's manufacturing capability, but it's also expense. It's way more complicated and expensive to make any decks that have any curvature in it. And that's why Hamboards don't have curvature. They're just flat. And so you don't need any molds. And that's what, if you've seen the new brand Birch, Derek Horn is the owner of it. He used to own Coastal, and he's doing the same thing where he just does flat stuff and just uses a CNC router to cut out a design. And that's super easy. I mean, I shouldn't say super, I should say relatively easy to do. Okay. So that answers the question on Pinger versus Classic. Somebody asked on my wheel bearings guide video, do Surfskate Love wheels have built-ins or are they standard? Well, there's no wheels that are built-ins. It's the bearings that are built-in bearings. So built-in bearings means, I got some here. Here is let me get a spacer. Here's a standard bearing here. And to use a standard bearing, you need spacers between them and speed rings on either side. Speed rings are just tiny little, where's a speed ring? Here's a speed ring. Speed rings are just tiny little washers like this. And so you have just so much more extra parts when you're using standard bearings, whereas built-in bearings, this is a loaded J Hue bearing. It has the spacer and the speed ring built into it. So when we talk about built-in, we're talking about bearings, not wheels. There's no such thing as any skateboard or longboard or surf skate wheels that are built in. That's your bearings. So, all right, going back to Mr. J. So with the Bigfoot and Sasquach, are you willing to sell ungripped at request? I know you're pretty adamant about selling them pre-gripped. No, I can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense to me to do custom orders like that. It's just way too much of a hassle for me. I mean, I suppose I could tell Madrid, set one aside before you heat transfer it, but then it's just, yeah, I'm too small of a shop and I don't like harping on about the economics of the thing, but in case anybody's wondering, I have yet to take a dime from this company. I've been working pretty much full time in this thing for 4 years running, and I have yet to take a dime from this company. And so, my point being, we're just such a small little shop here, and the economics just don't make any sense for me to do that much customization for people. I wish I could. It would be really nice, but it's just not in the cards for me. So I appreciate you understanding that. But yeah, however, I have changed my position on something. I was not planning on selling completes of these Bigfoots in my shop at all, for all the same reasons that I just stated, that I don't have scale. I have my daughter Liberty, But she's already running ragged with everything else. And so when I have to build the custom completes myself and it takes me half hour to an hour to do it, there goes my, whatever little margin that I have in these, it goes in my time. So I was not planning on selling completes out of my shop, but I've had way too many questions. Pretty much every question or comment that I've received about the Bigfoot comes down to that, is that people want me to sell completes. I've had many people ask me directly that. And if they're not asking me directly that, they don't know what hardware to use. Even if you know how to build it, people don't have hardware. Just bolts alone is, if you don't have, I have a drawer full of bolts that I get from Bolt Depot of all different sizes because I'm building stuff all the time. But if you don't have that, just ordering bolts alone is a pain in the butt, right? So I got to acquiesce. I'm going to have to build completes. So in the next few days, you'll be seeing completes out of my shop. And I'm going to sell two versions. I'm going to sell a Carver CX version and a Waterborne version. And the Carver CX version will just have the CX front and CX C2 rear, and the Waterborne will have the Waterborne front and rail adapter on the rear. And one thing I was going to say that came out of our event is it was really cool to see. This was the thought I didn't finish, going back to my intro. We had, if you know what quick trucks are, quick trucks enable you to change out your trucks really quickly on your decks. And so we had a few different setups on quick trucks at the shop, at Surfskate shop. And it was really interesting to see all the different, number one, how many of the different setups work. And I already knew that from my own experimentation. But two, how different the personal preferences are. To the point where, to be honest, I've been feeling pretty bad about, or not feeling pretty bad, just feeling a little bit like I've been pretty adamant about things like the rail adapter for me, things like that. And there were other people, riders, who didn't prefer it, Greg Falk among them. And here was another surprising thing that I was actually downright embarrassed about, to be perfectly honest, because this is something I should have tried and should have known. But I had tried a Carver CX front with a Carver C2 rear, and just it works. And I like it, but I just didn't like it as much as the rail adapter because you just lose lean on it. And I preferred the lean. And so after trying that, I didn't try the Grasp front truck with the Grasp rear because I just assumed that it was going to feel similar to the Carver CX, but it doesn't. Somebody, Kendra, who's the manager at Status, who loves Grasp trucks, she put a set of Grasp trucks on one with the Grasp rear, and she loved it. Everybody who rode it loved it. I loved it. And I was shocked and amazed by how good it felt. I should have tried that, but there's just something about the geometries of, and if you watch my Grasp review, a look at it, the owner of Grasp posted a long comment that I pinned because it was a fantastic comment. And he made the point that the real magic of the Grasp is less the front truck and more what he engineered on the rear truck and how the rear truck interacts with the front truck. And it was a really great point. And I find that effect, I preferred the Grasp raw, meaning, Grasp front and rear, as opposed to no rail adapter, over the Carver CX front and back. For whatever reason, on this particular wheelbase, it just works really well. And she also put small wheels on it, and it was interesting. It was easy to slide. It was a really fun little ride. So just seeing all the different varieties and of ways that you can put it together and all the different preferences was eye-opening to me. And in fact, Brian Tracy and Brian's the owner of Status Skate Shop. What we're going to do is, I told him, I left him with 2 demo boards, and then they've got a bunch of setups on quick trucks. So anybody who comes in can try the Bigfoot on any setup they want, pretty much. And he's just going to film people as they come in and try it. And hopefully, and once we get maybe 25, 30 people or something, we'll put together a video of it. And what I'm wanting to do with that is get out of my own way and my own personal preferences and give people more feedback on. I'm not wanting to see confirmation of my preferences. And what I'm really wanting to see is the variance and people saying, oh, I actually prefer this, like Kendra popping up the grasp and saying, I prefer this. Because that's going to be a lot more useful feedback for you if you're trying to decide things. I always try to stress to people, like, I have my opinions and my preferences, but they're just that. I try to be really accurate with the technical stuff when it's factual based, but when I'm expressing a personal preference, I'm expressing a personal preference, and there's lots of people who disagree with me and have other preferences. So I hope you all, take that in context. And this event really pronounced that for me even more. Is you got to be careful. You got to be so careful about personal preferences out here, because we all like our stuff. Okay, so Nate Ross, yes, it was Nate. We'll have to have you try it. Nate actually lives in Utah, just a couple hours north of me, and we haven't actually we text and call each other all the time, but we've never actually met in person. But it'll happen, Nate, and when it does, you're going to ride a grasp setup. You'll try that. Okay. Somebody asked if you tried the MBS all-terrain wheels. I haven't. I know what you're talking about. I've seen them. I've been curious about them. But personally, I have no interest in going off-road with a surf skate. You see people do that, but I'm always like, why are we doing this? Let's see. Somebody asked, are surf skates only good? Oh, this is related to what I just said. Are surf skates only good for smooth concrete? Trying to decide if I want a cruiser or surf skate. My streets are really rough and cracked, lots of rocks and sticks too. Yeah, I would certainly not want to ride a surf skate on rough, cracked, lots of rocks and sticks. If I did, the way to go would be go much bigger wheels, like minimum of say 75 millimeter, and put riser pads on it so you don't get wheel bite. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, I only want smooth concrete. And not only it's not just like rough asphalt. I don't like riding over smooth concrete that has wide gaps in it. So you'll see if you haven't noticed, there's a bunch of concrete on my college campus that I never skate. And it's really great concrete, but for one thing, it's got wide gaps between it. And so it just makes for a very jarring ride on those. So, yeah, I certainly don't like to ride on rough stuff. Yes, this spring indeed, Nate. Absolutely. Okay, then Mr. J says, that's what makes shopping so hard without trying things out. You got to rely on videos and hope the video maker's preference are similar to yours. And even then, there are so many variables. Exactly. I know. This is exactly why I came here and started my channel. I was so frustrated with, first of all the companies do is they just put great riders on their stuff and it looks amazing, but that's not useful to me because I'm not a great rider and never will be. So what good does that do me? It doesn't tell me anything about stance width. There's just so many things that the experts take for granted out here that us newbies, it's just, if you've never tried anything, we have no frame of reference. And so, yeah, I get it. That's exactly why I started my channel. And it's why I try to feature as many people on my channel as possible to get as many opinions as possible so that you can see a wide range of opinions and not just me spouting off whatever my preferences are. But you're right, it's hard. And there's unfortunately no way around it aside from you just got to kind of spend some money and experiment. Like things like bushings, for example. I can talk to you all day long about weight guidelines and preferences, and I can give you some recommendations, but at the end of the day, you have to just try different bushing durometers to see for yourself what's the difference between an 87.5A and a 90A. Does it work for my weight? Do I like it better? It's just all such personal preference, and I do my best to give you the best education as possible. But at the end of the day, there's just so much personal preference involved. And by the way, that's also why I get kind of a little bit frustrated with the forums, because you got to take any comments that you read on the forums, you got to take with a grain of salt, because what'll happen is somebody will come in and ask a question like Meraki versus C7, and you'll get 30 responses from people who have only ever tried one or two trucks in their life. And so it's like, you never really know what you're actually getting in those. People have very strong opinions based on trying a very narrow range of products. And so, yeah, take the forum comments with a grain of salt. No, and it's not saying that my opinions are better or anything. I'm just saying that I wish that when you read opinions on the forum, you had context to know what they've come from and what they've tried to know the context, but you're missing all that context. And then Nate says, my preferences change over time also. Yeah, me too. To be honest, I was so blown away with that grasp setup that I was like, holy crap, like I want me a grasp Bigfoot now. And here's the other cool thing about using grasp and Carver CX is you don't need riser pads, which makes it a low rider. Which is fantastic for cross stepping. It's really nice and stable, really great for cross stepping. And you can do anything on that you see me doing with the rail adapter. The only difference is you're just getting less lean. But it works, and you'll like it. And the eliminating the riser pads is unique and cool. I like that. I like getting it lower to the ground. Okay. What else we got here? Somebody posted on my Hamboards review where I was saying on my Hamboards review that Hamboards aren't really surf skates, because a surf skate, in my opinion, is defined as you have the swing arm on the front with the stable truck on the rear, which acts as fins on a surfboard that gives you that stable, to turn. And somebody comments on the Hamboards video, you're right that Hamboards aren't surf skates. Surf skates are too dependent on the front foot movement. Hamboards require you to use both feet together to move the board like you do on a surfboard. Hamboards are the best skateboards for surfers, and if you use surfing motions, you can pump them uphill and faster than any surf skate. So there's a lot to unpack there. At the top of the list, I don't know what this person is talking about when they say surf skates are too dependent on the front foot, because that's not how I ride at all. In my opinion, if you're riding on your front foot, I'm not a surfer, but even as a non-surfer, I know that you're not waiting on the front of your surfboard. You're waiting on the back of your surfboard, that only about 2/3 of your surfboard is actually in the water. And so when I'm riding, I'm always more weighted on my back foot, particularly on the short board. So I have no idea what you're talking about, them being dependent on the front foot. I drive a surf skate from the rear, not the front. The front for me just naturally moves as you drive the rear. So I don't know what you're saying or how you're pumping, but that's certainly not how I pump. And surf skates are not dependent on the front foot movement. They're dependent, if you're doing it right, in my opinion, you're driving from the rear. So I don't know what you're talking about there. Secondly, Hamboards are the best skateboards for surfers. That's your opinion. I can line up 20 surfers I've personally talked to who will say the exact opposite. So there's your opinion. And then if you use surfing motions, you can pump them uphill and faster than any surf skate. I will bet you $10,000 that you're wrong on that point. We can line up any surf skate you want, and I promise you, I will pump uphill faster than you on Hamboards. I will bet really good money on that. So I don't know what else to say about that comment. But again, that's also like, that's just context. That's my opinion. This guy has an opinion. So what? They're opinions. But yeah, none of that. There's so much about that comment that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's my opinion. All right. Here's about the sixth time I've had somebody ask me any plans to review the Loaded Tangent Surfskate Edition. No plans. I would like to. I'd like to ride it and try it, but reviews don't really do anything for me, especially not something that's out of the norm for that. They do in the sense of helping me define, I came in with a very intentional purpose to buy as much as I could and then give people some kind of frame of reference for all of it. So now, sorry, I'm missing some other questions here. I'm getting derailed here. Let me answer these questions. Have you ever tried very large wheels on a Surfskate like 90 or 100 millimeter? Yeah, but it's the reason why I don't like is because they can get very dangerous when you go downhill. If you're just on really mellow stuff, and somebody's asked, I've had several people ask me why I take the big wheels off the Hamboards too, and it's the exact same reason. Is for the vast majority of that campus ride that you see, the big wheels would be just fine. But there are a couple sections there where if I were to get on those big wheels, it would get out of control on me so fast. You would be get going so fast and there would be no way to bail. Like you would have to just somehow ride it out or something. But yeah, and then you're on a 30-pound death trap. So that's why I don't use the big wheels. If you get on any length of downhill, they will get very, very fast, out of control fast for you right quick. And then, okay, Nate Ross, Hamboards have way too much rear steer. And they don't have any propulsion like you get when you drive from the rear on a surf skate, not moving your front foot side to side. Speaking of Hamboards, do you have an opinion on the 20-degree HST or zero HST? Yes, I do. Do you want my raw unfiltered or do you want my diplomatic? Here's the bottom line is they're worthless. They're horrible. And it's Hamboards trying to fix the problem in a way that's not going to fix it. They're taking the feedback on, when you have the exact same rear with the same trucks on the front and rear with the same geometry, yeah, you just get extreme lean side to side, but you don't get the forward propulsion with the pumping like you do with stable rear. But the thing is just changing that degree on the rear doesn't fix the fact that you don't have a lateral swing arm on the front truck. The only thing the front truck does is lean. So does it improve the pump ability when you change that rear degree? Yes, it does. Does it make it rideable? No, it doesn't. There's a reason why when you go on eBay, you're going to see and look for shirts for Hamboards Burst on eBay. And everyone I've ever known, I've heard lots of people talk about this. Everyone I've ever known who buys a Burst steps foot on it and then puts it up on eBay. So Hamboards frustrates me because, in my opinion, they should do two things. I'd really love to see them do two things. And they would, in my opinion, I think, get immediate influx of sales from surf skaters. Number one, start offering their decks separately. And number two, they need to do a collaboration with Waterborne with the Dream adapter if that's what I would do if I were Hamboards, is I would sell my deck separately and then I'd do a collaboration with Waterborne. But my understanding is that, and this is where I go, I don't know if this is stuff I should, but it's reality, it's truth, it's just what it is. But the reason why they're very fixed on their HST trucks is because they have a bunch of them to get rid of. And in my opinion, they have a bunch of them to get rid of for a reason. Because if you're asking me, those HST trucks are just absolute garbage. Personal opinion. because you just heard a comment from a surfer who loves it and says it's the best surfer ever. So what do I know? But yeah, that's my opinion on those. I just think I never, if I were him, I never would have spent the time engineering those different degree trucks. I would have just scrapped the trucks and gone with something that works. Because these Hamboards, you guys, these Hamboards with the Waterborne Dream Adapter are so much fun. God, they're so much fun. The classic and the pinger, the real long ones. I'll a caveat. I don't like the logger, 60-inch logger. It's narrow. There's just nothing, and it just doesn't feel good at all. So pretty much bottom line is I don't like, for a Surfskate with the Dream Adapter, I don't like anything other than the classic and the pinger. But the classic and the pinger, fantastic. And then there's the big fish. It's 50, I'm staring at it. It's 53 inches long and 18 inches wide. That's fun too, but it's also really thin, so it's bouncier, flexier in the middle. It's fun too. It's interesting, but for me, it's the classic and the pinger all day long. But they are so much fun on the Waterborne Dream Adapter. And if I had somebody commented on the pinger video this morning, he said, "What's the point of these big clumsy longboards?" And that was a really interesting comment to me because, I mean, maybe I look clumsy riding them, but they sure don't feel clumsy to me. Like, clumsy is the last word in the world I would use to describe these longboards. For me, what blew the precise thing that blew my mind about them. Oh, what he said was, he finished the comment by saying, I thought Surfskate trucks were for short boards, and these are big and clumsy. What blew my mind about the longboards, the very essence of it, was the very fact that I could do almost everything on my college campus run on a 57-inch longboard as I could on a 32-inch board. And it blew my mind. Just that intrinsically just blew my mind. But then also it's just a whole new level of freedom where not only are you able to have the same level of nimbleness on a 57-inch deck, you can do crazy nimble carving, and you can pump it without touching your foot on the ground, but you can also walk back and forth on it. It was just a whole new level of freedom for me. And freedom is the word for me, is if I were to boil down the reason why I fell in love with Surfskates, it's one word: freedom. It was just freedom that I'd never felt before. And that's what I feel in the longboard. So like I say, I can't argue with my riding looking clumsy, but they sure don't feel clumsy to me. They feel like shocking. You don't, if you've never ridden them, you can't imagine that you can do everything you can do on them. And then you jump on one and you're shocked by how actually easy it is to do, assuming you have a baseline level of skill. And so, yeah, there's nothing clumsy about these. Like, the fact, it's weird to me that you describe as clumsy when I can jump. I don't know how many videos this guy has watched, but how do you describe it as clumsy when I can jump on a 78-inch deck that's 4 inches longer than I am tall and ride a mile down my college campus without ever touching my foot on the ground? Like, it's incredible to me. It's elegant and mind-blowing to me, and freedom. It's not like, I was just so struck by that. But what I realized was, it's not that I took offense at that comment at all. It was, I just clued into it as really interesting to me, because I've never actually made a video explaining to people why I love the longboard so much. I just thought that the fun was translating in the videos. And so I've been making the exact same mistake that I've been telling the companies that they make, where, it's the curse of the expert, where I've just assumed that everyone was kind of saying that the fun was in the ride, but apparently it's not translating to everybody. So yeah. Okay. Have you tried the Pantheon Shuriken? I sure have, and I have it and like it. I'll give you my 30-second review of the Pantheon Shuriken. I love pretty much everything about it. Minus one thing: you don't feel any flex on it at all. That's pure personal preference, because if you listen to my team rider, David Kempinen, he does not like the flex on the Soulboardy. I love the flex on the Soulboardy. David Kempinen, I should clarify, he likes it for cruising, but he does not like it for skate park riding at all. When I actually like the flex for skate park riding. So that's one of those points where it's just purely personal preference. And the whitetail decks are the same thing for me. That was one of the big reasons why they're not my preference, is they don't have any flex to them. So he had cut out that channel in the middle that was intended to help with flex. And I'm sure that it does. Who knows what it would have felt like without that. But that's the big thing for me. But if that's not a thing for you, or if you even prefer the stiffer, then you're going to like it, or prefer it probably over a Soulboardy. The big things that I love about it are the width. Number one, width and the foot placement are just perfect. If you've watched any of my videos reviewing completes from companies, one of the recurring criticisms you'll hear me say is I don't like the foot placement on a lot of them, on either the front or the rear foot. But like the Spice Skates that I'm looking at here, they all narrow at the tip where your front foot goes. So the Shuriken gives you tons of foot space for both your front and back feet. It feels very stable. The concave is perfect. And the one point that I would make about it in terms of personal preference is just that flex. But it's everything that you want out of a surf skate deck, and really fantastic ride. And I actually really enjoyed it in the bowl too. So it's really, I found it to be very universal, meaning it's a great cruiser as well as a bowl rider, so you can do pretty much anything on that Shuriken that you want to do on a surf skate, including bull riding. So it definitely gets a high endorsement for me. I don't personally ride it for that one reason, the flat. Well, I don't ride it because I'm too in love with longboards. So what I was really going to say is here's my 10-second review. The Pantheon Shuriken is fantastic if you're into the short boards, which I'm not anymore. I'm too hooked on the longboards. The longboards are not just, it's not like adding another deck to your quiver. It's a whole different thing. It's a whole different category. It's a new experience. They're not Hamboards. They're not Surfskates. They're longboard Surfskates. In my opinion, they're the first like true longboard surfing equivalents and I'm saying this as a non-surfer, which I know that's ridiculous to say, but what other options have we had? In the past, if you have a deck over 50 inches long, what are you putting on it? Typically, all the ones that I bought, they have longboard trucks on them, RKPs on them. Some of them you have TKPs on them that are really wide hanger TKPs. Or you have Hamboards, or you have the Coastal put revenge trucks on them, which if you've ever tried revenge trucks relative to Surfskate trucks, they're absolute garbage. I have no idea why anybody's still selling or buying revenge trucks in a world of Surfskate trucks. That's the first time where we've had all of the elements together, the long deck with Surfskate trucks that actually work. It really is just this whole new category, and I'm certainly in love with it. And anyway, all right, I digress. Keep harping on about my longboards. Okay, since trying Surfskate Love. So Nate says, since trying Surfskate Love 75 millimeter 76A wheels, I don't ride 90 millimeters much anymore. Nate, I don't have 75 millimeter or 76A wheels. I have 70 millimeter 78A wheels, if that's what you're, okay. Then I just, after I read his comment, then I read below and he fixed it. But you didn't fix the size. They're 70 millimeters, not 75. I don't have 75s. Okay. Let's see. Here's one. I've been considering a 47-inch tab 2 from Loaded. Are there any good? I have no idea. I don't even know what that is. Oh, here's a good question. Do you prefer C7 CX or Waterborne surf adapter in general for long distance pumping? And then he finishes by saying for snowboard feel. And that's interesting to me. I am neither a surfer nor a snowboarder, but I have snowboarded once in my life. I actually grew up in Washington State in cold and snow. I just hate cold and snow. So I couldn't get out of it fast enough. But so every time I ride the Bigfoot, I have the thought that snowboarders would love this. It feels to me like, especially on a Carver CX. So to answer your first question, I would say for long distance pumping, Carver CX, and for snowboard feel, Carver CX. And if you really want a snowboard feel, get the Bigfoot with Carver CX. And I think if you're a snowboarder, you're going to love it for that. In fact, it's honestly surprising to me that we haven't made more inroads with snowboarders because, you know, you hear surfers talking about riding their surf skate on flat days. Well, snowboarders should be riding surf skates in the summer. I don't know why, you know, Utah in particular is a hot spot for skiing and snowboarding. I don't know why we don't have, you know, tons of snowboarders on Carvers in the summer. I'm sure there's some, but I don't think there's a lot. But for me, if you're talking snowboard feel, you're talking Carver CX and on the Bigfoot. I think unless there's any other questions, let me answer this one last one. Unless there's any other questions in the live chat here, I think we'll call it a night. Somebody says, I got a slide, Gussie, Stingray, just what trucks I can switch out in the same holes for surf training purposes and bull riding. Any trucks. Trucks are universal, except they're pretty much universal now, and especially if you're buying any surf skate from any modern surf skate company, they're all going to have. You have what's called old school bolt pattern and new school bolt pattern. Old school bolt pattern was wider. That's why you see on trucks, you're not going to be able to see that. I don't have a loose truck here that I could show you, but if you look on trucks, you see that you have two places where you can put bolts or two widths on them. And the wider width is old school, the narrower width is new school. So new school is the most universal. The only stuff that I've bought that has old school pattern is vintage stuff. I've not bought anything that's, you know, past 2000s or so, I guess, that is old school bolt pattern. So the short answer is pretty much any deck in the world is going to be swappable with the slide truck because that's a universal size on those trucks. Mr. J says snowboarders have the freeboard and the summer board. I don't know what either of those are. All right, guys. Well, thanks for showing up. Appreciate your support. Good to have you. Good chatting with you as always. I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll call it a night. Look forward to, if you're not into the Bigfoot, you're probably going to get bored for the next while on my channel. I apologize for that because we came home with quite a lot of good footage. So I'll be making a video of first and foremost, the first video I'm going to make is of me just picking them up at Madrid because that was just fun for me. And then it ends with me taking sorry, this is all very self-indulgent and I acknowledge that. So I appreciate your allowing me to indulge here, but it was so much fun for me. It was so rushed. I haven't really even had the chance for it to really sink in, but it was just the coolest thing ever for me to have bought my Carver Tyler 7.7 from Status Skate Shop, October 15th, 2020, fall in love. And then yesterday I returned to Status with my Tyler 7.7 in hand and one of my Bigfoots. And that was just the coolest feeling ever. That was really, really cool. Just a really cool full circle moment for me. But anyway, thanks for indulging me. Really appreciate your support. And we got a lot more Bigfoot content coming up. But I also have, a lot of plans for other stuff. You'll see a lot of other stuff coming through the pipeline too. Just be patient with me over the next month or two as I get out what we got on this trip. And also, what we're doing tomorrow, first thing tomorrow, is we have a bunch of orders from our pre-sale to ship. So me and Liberty, my daughter, are going to be spending all day tomorrow probably shipping all this stuff. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate having you. Have a good night. And I will see you on the next one, which will be April 6th, Sunday, April 6th. So good night, and I will see you Sunday, April 6th.